Alright, in this video, let's take a quick look at PlayBlast. Now, in Maya, there is no such thing as rendering. There's no renderer. You can render an image, for example, go to Shading and click on Baking Preview, but that doesn't really do anything. It's not really a real renderer. If you wanted to render a high-quality image, you would need to use something like Keyshot, or you can bring this into Maya, for example, and use Arnold or Mental Ray. But the only thing we do have in Maya LT is a PlayBlast. Now, what is a PlayBlast? PlayBlast will allow you to use the Viewport 2.0, right? That's what this is. It's just pretty much what you're seeing. And you can render it into a little movie file for, if it's a portfolio piece, or if you want to do like a turntable for YouTube or something like that. So let's take a look at that and see how that actually works. So here's our snail, right? So for example, I have my idle animation selected here, our 24 frame animation. So let's do this. Let's create like a little turntable where the snail just rotates 360, right? And as it rotates, we can then do a PlayBlast and create like a little movie file that we can then, upload to YouTube or something like that. All right. So how do we do this? Now, whatever you're seeing in your viewport is actually what is going to be seen in the video. So one thing I suggest is maybe go to Show and actually hide the joins. Let's turn off our wireframe. And another thing we could do is select the snail and press 3, just so we have a much smoother version of our snail. Okay, so another thing we could do if we wanted to see shadows, for example, we can go to polygons, maybe grab like a plane and just drag out a plane so he's like on the floor. And if we go to our top view, hold on the X key, I can snap it to the middle. Let's go back into our perspective view, and maybe we want to set the floor to be maybe like a white color instead of gray. So let's go to our material attribute editor, and let's turn this to like white with maybe a little ambient color. If we want to change the background to white, for example, we can always go to Windows, Color Settings. You can change your background, obviously, right? So let's turn that to white. And I'm going to say close. I'm not going to save it because I don't really want to keep it white. I just want to show you how to make the PlayBlast with the white, kind of a white background. So actually this piece is still kind of gray. So let's turn this ambient color up a little. All right. And maybe even make it a little larger. Okay. Another thing we could do is, for example, maybe turn the lights on. And once we turn the lights on, obviously we don't have any lights in the scene. So let's go to Shading. Let's bring in like a directional light. Maybe bring this up. And sometimes when they come in, they're a little small. Can always make it larger. That doesn't really affect anything. And maybe set up like a little shadow that's going on here. So you could do something. You can decide, what looks good in your with your character. And then you can also bring maybe another light, like I'm gonna grab this point light and just move it up. We can turn up our intensity if we wanted to do a little. Another thing we could do is make sure your shadows are on. So you can also look really close. You could see that the edges are kind of jaggedy. You can turn this on, and you could see how now, even if it's in the preview, it turns smooth. Now it's going to slow down your scene, but that's okay because a PlayBlast won't care. It's not real time, so it's actually going to kind of render out. All right, so my shadows are on, and I can't see them because I'm actually going to bring down my intensity because I really want a little bit of a shadow there, like a light shadow on mine. And maybe actually turn this guy towards the character a little more. Alright, so you could spend some time setting up your lights the way you like it. You could also check out these other lights. Once you're done, let's turn off the lights so they're not seen in the scene, right? Alright, and let's go to make sure you're on frame 1. And right now, as you can see, if I play my animation, it plays, right? So there's 24 frame animation. Now, one thing we need to do when we set up our PlayBlast, we'll actually have to extend our animation. So it needs to play beyond just the 24 frames. Essentially, it needs to loop, right? So let's do this. Let's select our snail, and under Animation tab, let's go to Visualize and click on Create Turntable Options. Now let me reset my settings. By default, it's set to 30. I'm going to set mine to 300 and just simply say Apply. Alright, when you say Apply, or press Turntable if you want to just close it. But once it's done, right, if I deselect my snail and just press play, you'll see he starts to spin, but he is only spinning 24 frames because that's all we currently have available. But we just set our PlayBlast, or our turntable to 300. So obviously we need to set this number to 300 as well. And let's go ahead and extend our slider. And let's try this again. So now the snail is rotating, but it is not animated. Right? So how do we loop our animation in Maya LT 2017? Well, all we need to do is go to Window, Animation, and go to Time Editor. Time Editor will bring something like this. So what we need to do next is actually simply select our joint. So I'm going to go to my outliner, and let's find our snail, which is right there, and select the joints for the snail, right? And while the joints are selected, I'm going to say plus, add selected content from the scene. Okay? I'm going to close my outliner. Now, as you can see in the time editor, we have this little animation clip, which is the representation of our snail being idle, right? So all we need to do now is loop it to 300 frames instead of 24. Now you can use the middle mouse wheel to zoom out. You can go to 300 and Alt and middle mouse button click to kind of pan around. So essentially, let's extend this guy all the way to 300. But we can't just simply drag it, because that will actually edit the actual animation, so it will make it really, really slow. We don't want to do that. We want to click on this guy. Alright, once that's clicked, now we can just kind of drag out all the way to 300. Alright. Now, once you drag it to 300, you'll see this kind of turned white, showing you that, hey, this is just, a clone of this, right? Perfect. Now we can close this. And now if we play it, we could see our snail is going to be blinking the entire time it's being rotated. Perfect. I'm going to click outside to make sure nothing is selected. Go to frame 1. And now let's go ahead and do a PlayBlast. So to do a PlayBlast, I'm going to Windows and go to PlayBlast. Let's click on PlayBlast options and take a look. So time slider is fine. View is good. I don't want to show ornaments. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, I'm going to leave this on AVF. Now we could play with the quality. I'm just going to set mine to H264. Scale, so that's going to be pretty much half of what this window is. And let's go ahead and save it, right? And I'm going to save it in my movies folder in my Maya project. So I'm going to just call this snail turntable. Let's say save, and just simply click PlayBlast. Now you will see Maya is actually rendering out our PlayBlast. And once it's done, it's going to automatically take you to the movie, right, using your computer's default movie player. And in my case, I can actually also press loop, and let's check this out. As you can see, it's not high definition rendering, but it's definitely good enough. Viewport 2.0 is really nice. It's very close to what a final rendering might look like. It's almost like using game engine for your rendering. Some people, for example, use Unity 3D to bring in their models, and actually, instead of rendering things in Maya, you could actually just, render things in Unity in real time. So essentially, this is exactly what this is. You can actually create full animations with sound and just do a PlayBlast and create like little clips of your work. So that's pretty much it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.